So last one we had both of us put down motivation or being a motivator. Okay, why last?
Because like, first of all, you and I have the same answer. I know that to me, I don't think there's a such thing as being motivated. Like, maybe not such a thing as motivated, but I think motivation is a very fleeting thing. It lasts for. It can help. It can help. You can have someone like push the right buttons at certain times to motivate. That's fine, but a lot of times a motivational speech or a motivator um, is just it could be fake, could be just pretend, it could be just words, it could not mean anything. The guy that's doing the motivating might have just read a quote and it means absolutely nothing, and you might be a guy that doesn't need that. For me, honestly, motivation comes from within. It comes from within, period. You're either motivated or you're not. You're gonna and you either, like, when you're playing hockey, you have to do the job or you don't. Like, that's really the thing. If you're motivated to do that, that's awesome, right? And if you have a coach that knows how to get a team maybe dialed in for a little bit, that's great. So you can give the greatest motivational speech before a game, and then once you start playing, you're not remembering that speech, right? You have energy. It could give you a little bit of zip for a small period of time, and I just don't think it's as a coach. But now, don't get me wrong. I think it's better that you can, like, where I think motivation is very, very healthy. Well, first of all, I think it's better that you have a guy that is motivated, right? And can communicate a message to get guys like on the right path, get the energy up. But I think the best motivation you can have is more like a communication. So, like, the ability to see you walking in and know the right things to say or how to push the right buttons. So the motivation for you one day might be you're on a 10-game goal streak, and I have the ability to tell you, like, you're playing great hockey. Continue to do this, this, and this, and the reason you're getting this is because of this, this, and this. Keep it up. Give me a high five. Whatever. That's motivating to a bit because you have some validation, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be. It doesn't come from me for you to get motivated. Get yourself out of bed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for
Because
sure.
you've had this where, you ever have a day where you're just like, you know what, like, life right now just this ain't good, this ain't good, this ain't good, and and you say something like, I'm gonna quit or whatever, and someone says, "Oh yeah, but you have all the best qualities. You're a handsome fella. You're this. You're that. You you live in Canada. You have 3 square meals a day. All this shit, and then you're supposed to feel good about yourself." It's like, but I don't want to hear about how lucky I am, right? Because it's not motivating right now. But is that another funny thing? Is it?
You're a handsome fella.
Well, no, that's my wife did it to me last night.
Why was that the first thing? You're a
Well,
handsome fella.
because we're going to build you up again, right? And we're going to show you all your good qualities in life. So my wife did it to me last night because I walked out. I'm tired. I got a whole lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I just want it to be done.
Yeah.
I just want it to be done. I got like a 500-pound gorilla on my back right now. And I walked outside. She goes, "Oh, you're going to sit out in here and talk?" I said, "Oh, it's too hot." So she's like, we said something. I said, "Just you know what? I want this done. I want it done. I'm pissed off. Don't even want to be here right now. Like, I just like shoot me."
Yeah.
So she started that. Well, think of all the wonderful things you have right now. I'm like, yeah. Okay, great, wonderful. And it's right. It's true, but I'm not motivated by it right now. Okay?
Yeah,
I want
I'm
my
not-
shit
I'm not
done.
in
I
it
want my
right
shit done.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's
Three-
for everybody. I'm in a bad mood. What?
3 square meals a
I
day.
get 3 square meals a day. Yeah.
Live in Canada.
Live in Canada.
So positive.
Yeah.
Fuck. Oh,
You got clean water.
Oh.
Yeah. I am fortunate that that's there.
Yeah,
I really am.
true,
Yeah.
true.
Anyways.
So nonetheless, that aside, I would agree. I think the man, the motivating thing is like exact same answer as you're giving. I think it's better. Again, we're not saying this is what I would hope doesn't happen from this episode. We're not saying these things are not important. It's I'm forcing you to rank order them, but for people that are paying attention, we're saying if we have to order them one over the other, but it's still better, obviously, if you have a guy that can get that little bit of jam out of the kids for those short bursts. Like, that's definitely better, or your team or whatever. And there's different ways of doing it, which I think is important too. Like, for me, I'm not the start yelling and screaming and get hyped that way. I'm more what you said. Like, this is good, this is good, this is good. I hope that inspires you to keep doing what you're doing. That's the way that I go about it. So there's different ways to do that. But it is still important. It's not like you don't want to have that. But if I have to pick, I have to pick. So in my I guess my summary, I still have for me like I think everything stems from being a good communicator as a coach, as a leader, as a teacher, as a whatever thing. But then just from talking to you over this podcast now, there's definitely exceptions to that where you could give me a coach that never says anything to anybody, but he just knows how to push the buttons and turn the right dials to get the outcomes that he wants. Where guys would say, "Yeah, he didn't say much, but he was my favorite coach," or whatever, you know. And same thing with teachers that you have or anything like that. So there's definitely exceptions to that, but for me, I think that communicator piece, I'm going to say the vast majority of the time for me, everything kind of stems from that. If you're able to articulate the message that you want clearly and use the right terminology and all this stuff, then leading, your technical, tactical knowledge, motivating, teaching, all that stuff is easier if you can branch from that communication piece.
I like communication.
Yeah,
too.
which is why I still keep that as number one, but definitely from talking to you now, I definitely acknowledge that there's exceptions where that might not necessarily be the number one thing in every single situation. Though I bias towards that personally.
Well, Charlie had a coach, and it was not a lot of words, not a lot of emotion, more gruff than anything. Great coach for a long time, right? It's like, so my son has, I think there's 5 words. That's all he ever hears, and I'm not going to say them because I don't. You do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. So at first, because that communication skill is not great, it's just direct and it's 5 words. But honestly, it's everything. If you listen to the 5 words, you do this, 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 and this, you're a pro. Don't do that, you're not a pro. So that's all he ever says. And it's not when like, let's say, I can imagine, I've heard this through him too, is like when it's a system, it's like it's this. It's not like this because it's like it's this. And if you don't do this, you don't play or whatever. So the communication is short, sweet, not sweet, but short, and just do it.
Yeah. Right.
Works.
Yeah, for sure.
Works. Might not like it as much. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say,
But then he has the ability when he sees the room or the team needs a kick or a big hug, he can get in the room and say, okay, tell a story, and everyone's like, okay, he cares about us. And
yeah, and I think I don't want my own. Again, just through the course of having this conversation, I don't want my own bias where I appreciate communication a lot. Like that's one of my highest values. I don't want that to cloud my judgment where I'll say, well, it never works unless you're a good communicator, because it can work, right? That's an example where I'm the guy that, as you can tell from this podcast, I can talk the feet right onto a fish, like you'd say, give a woodpecker a headache, as you'd say. So I acknowledge that I'm like that because I want to talk, I want to explain, I want to get to the bottom of things, I want to make sure everything's clear. Not everybody's like that, and sometimes it works. Like if I talk to my brother, for example, he's doesn't want the details. Like he's like, get to the point and let's move on. So I could take 15 minutes to tell a story that he'll tell in 48 seconds, and that's just his style. Yeah, sometimes it's better, right? So it's definitely not a one size fits all, but I thought that's kind of what one of the key things. There's a bunch of things I took away from the weekend, but that was one of I thought was an interesting discussion because I rank ordered mine and then I looked at theirs and it wasn't the same. And I was looking at some of the guys around me and it wasn't the same. Everybody was like all over the map with what they kind of thought.
Well, that says a lot about the course, right? It's like for you that's important. For me, that's not.
Yeah.
So as a coach, you got to be like a cockroach. You got to be adaptable.
Yeah. Yeah,
right. Talking to other people, it's not all the same person.
And that's one thing I will credit them for the weekend is most of the conversations they had, which on the one hand was not helpful, but on the other hand it was helpful. Mm-hmm. Is they were just saying like you got to figure out what you care about, and then you can decide from every perspective, from your power play, your D zone, your whatever. What are the values you have as a coach, and that'll